Hi guys, my name is Brittany Byrne, and today we're going to talk about Native American culture. People lived in the United States long before their arrival of Christopher Columbus and the Europeans. These people and cultures are called Native Americans. The first people to live in the land are called the indigenous people. This means they were the original settlers. The Native Americans are indigenous people and cultures of the United States. Today I'll talk to you about the Native culture and history. I explored credible sources, and this is where I gathered my information to share with you today. I'm going to talk about the Native American culture, when it arrived here in Nebraska, and important information healthcare workers should know about Native culture, and some other little special details I have learned today. Native American culture was such a huge impact to the United States. A lot of our history goes back to when the Native American culture migrated here to the United States. I wanted to talk about Native Americans because I have a family history on my mom's side of Cherokee Indian. Native Americans have a lot of sacrifices that have been made for them to establish the land that they have owned. They are hardworking, dedicated, and determined to make ends meet for their family. The exact date for immigration to Nebraska is unclear. This is because Native Americans didn't write down or record their history. So we have to find out about their history in other ways. We have learned a lot from the past because they have dug up artifacts such as tools and weapons. We can also learn about their traditions and stories that have been passed down from generation to generation. It was believed that in the end of the 1700s and beginning 1800s, Native Americans settled in Nebraska. The Native Americans' territory in Nebraska had been established, and they resided in the counties Richardson, Burt, Knox, and Platte. There are many tribes here in Nebraska, but the four main tribes are the Omaha tribe, the Winnebago, the Ponca, and the Sannay Sioux tribe. The Ponca tribe was one of the smaller tribes back then, but now there are still close to 4,200 Ponca tribe members in Nebraska. Back then, farmers, businessmen, craftsmen, and political farmers all contribute to merging the Native American into the community. They started even adapting them into the schools and religious institute. Now we are going to start talking about healthcare. Native Americans believed in the body, mind, and spirit of their health. The body, mind, spirit paradigm, the brain, predictive processing models that describe spiritual experiences of patients in altered states of consciousness. This is a traditional medicine heritage and current evidence-based approach. The osteopathic profession is in a unique position to promote the scientific model of holistic care. Native Americans tend to have many different health problems. They often don't have a lot of resources to healthcare, which is some of the issue. They have lots of domestic violence against women, lots of alcohol abuse, diabetes, infections, pressure ulcers, wound dehiscence, dyspnea, and mental health issues. The nutrients for Native Americans is not too great. There's a lot of malnutrition in the culture, which is a cause of more of their health problems. They also have to tend to have a high number of obesity, especially in children. The core list of foods for Native American are soda, white bread, and coffee. They tend to eat very little fruits and vegetables. They do, however, eat protein. Their nutrition has definitely changed throughout time. There are gender roles in Native American culture. Typical women's work is they're normally generally in charge of the home and sometimes the field. They worked very hard. They cooked and prepared meals. This could involve skinning or cleaning animals, gathering fruits and nuts, building a fire, smoking meat to be stored for the winter, crafts. Women had a variety of crafting skills they could use around the home, including making baskets, weaving clothes, preparing animal hides, In many tribes, the women were responsible for harvesting crops. The men might help in this task, but it generally fell upon the women. Women had a variety of other jobs. To pack up, it was to raise the children, to gather firewood. When a tribe moved, it generally was the women's job to pack up the home and get it back to a new location. Men's work, they were in charge of activities away from the home, such as hunting, which was the primary job. Animals were not used for food, but their skins were used for clothing and in some cases to make their homes. Men were responsible for making war and protecting the village. Typical men's crafts had to do with jobs such as weapons for hunting and boats for fishing. In most Native American tribes, men were the political and religious leaders. They often did the heavy work, such as building permanent homes and planting crops. Some interesting facts were that they both created ceremonial jewelry. Women were in charge of homes. They often owned the home and everything in it. Women were well respected in the tribes for their hard work in providing food for farming. They did not have equal rights, though. In some tribes, the chief was a man, but he was elected by a woman. Today, around 25% of Native American tribes that are recognized by the federal government are led by women. Now I'm going to talk to you about headdresses in Native American culture. This is an example of the headdresses that Native Americans wore. Women could not wear these, and they were often shown as superior or someone in charge. That was about my Native American culture here in Nebraska and the history of it. Thank you for listening.